Wildfire season is off and running. Take a look at your screen. We are tracking several fires tonight that are scorching the region. Some are growing as we speak, while firefighters are getting the upper hand on others. Good evening and thank you for joining us for KREM 2 News at 10 tonight. I'm Mark Hanrahan. We have a lot to get to tonight, so let's jump right in, starting with the day's wildfire headlines in less than a minute. The Asotin Complex fire burning near Clarkston and Lewiston is now pushing 28,000 acres. Level 2 and 3 evacuations are in place for nearby communities, and Red Cross shelters have been set up for evacuees at Lincoln Middle School. So far, 6 outbuildings have been lost, and 450 other buildings are considered to be threatened. Meantime, over in central Idaho, the Dixie fire has grown now to more than 11,000 acres. Evacuation orders are in place for residents living in the Dixie and Comstock area. No word yet from fire officials on containment for that fire. The Batterman Road fire is scorching more than 14,000 acres over east of Wenatchee. At last check, it is now 50% contained. All evacuation levels there have been lowered to a level 1. Meantime, closer to home, the Andrus fire burning in the West Plains is holding steady tonight at 232 acres. It is now 55% contained. There are still level 1 evacuation notices in place for about 24 residents. No structures were lost in that fire. New tonight at 10, the 5 northern counties in Idaho are bracing for new fire restrictions next week as historically dry July continues. Tonight, Idahoans met with local health and safety leaders to map out a plan moving forward. KREM 2's Joshua Robinson was at tonight's meeting and has more now on what the restrictions mean for locals.
Several dozen North Idahoans sat in today for a public forum with the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, the Fire Chiefs Association, and the Idaho Department of Lands to work through their fire concerns.
I'm a resident of this county as well. My home would be threatened as well if we had a wildland fire come down Canfield. So I can very easily empathize with what people are thinking and feeling.
One of the announcements tonight that Stage 2 fire restrictions will go into effect in North Idaho on Monday. The most important part of those restrictions essentially is absolutely no fires or charcoal beyond city limits. Carrie Maddox with Idaho Panhandle National Forest says in her time living in Idaho, she hasn't seen a jump to this level of restriction so early in the year.
We usually like to go stage 1 first and see how effective that is as a prevention measure. But the amount of fires that we're seeing and the drought conditions and fuels conditions that we're seeing has necessitated that jump. We don't have the resources, we can't afford any more fires on the forest, so anything that folks can do to not have any human caused starts would be a great help to all the firefighting resources out there.
Another way to help is by shoring up your home's defensible space, starting with a minimum of 100 feet of clearance around the structures of your home from flammable vegetation. But there are plenty of other suggestions, like trimming healthy trees so branches are 6 feet off the ground and 10 feet from your chimney, removing any dead trees, and keeping weeds and grass below 6 inches. Because the effort to keep your home out of the path of wildfires also gives firefighters more space to fight flames back themselves. Joshua Robinson, KREM 2 News.
And like Joshua just mentioned, those Stage 2 restrictions start next Monday. So take a look at your screen right now. Under Stage 2 restrictions, building, maintaining, or using a campfire or stove fire is not allowed. Smoking outside of an enclosed vehicle or building also prohibited. ATVs and UTVs cannot be used off designated roads and trails. And again, these restrictions are on all Idaho lands, specifically those 5 northern counties in Idaho. Well, those extremely dry conditions are going to follow us for a while now. I want to get straight to meteorologist Thomas Patrick in the Outdoor Weather Center tonight. Thomas, we only, and I say only, fully aware that we hit 88 degrees today, but at least we didn't hit 90. That's the first time in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. In fact, it was 14 straight days, 2 full weeks proper, that we were at or above 90 degrees in Spokane. Of course, one of those days was the all-time record breaker from last week at 109. Today, 21 degrees colder than when we had that record breaker, only 88, and that's the most appropriate way that we can put it. Ended up pretty much stopping our streak 1 day shy of the all-time record, which was actually set back in 2017. That was 15 days. So we ended up at only 14 days in a row of 90 plus, only had 4 days in a row of 100 plus. Both of those streaks that we had during this heat wave were the second most all time in their respective categories. What about tomorrow? Well, it looks like we're back into the 90s. My forecast of 93 would put us in the low 90s, even if we do fall short of the forecast, kind of like what we did today, but pretty much sunny skies yet again from start to finish. And we're going to have another dry stretch of weather ahead of us, but we'll keep our eyes out, especially for any pop-up showers or thunderstorms in some of the nearby mountains. I'll show you what's up with that, what you can expect, and what is going to be another hot weekend across the area.
Sounds good, Thomas. We'll check back in with you later in the broadcast. Meantime, if you'd like to know more about the wildfires burning across the region, just text the word FIRE to 509-448-2000 and we'll send a link directly to your phone. In other news this evening, the man accused of carjacking and attempted carjacking in downtown Spokane last week was released from jail today. Remember this gentleman is 23-year-old Raul Arevalo. He is suspected of a series of carjackings across Spokane last week. He evaded police on the day of that suspected spree and was caught this past Saturday. He was released today on $500 bond. Months after the U.S. Capitol riot, 2 Seattle police officers could lose their job. Today, a police oversight committee said those 2 officers should be fired because they violated SPD policy and D.C. laws.
I think pretty definitively say from our perspective that as a law enforcement officer, you knew or should have known that you were trespassing at the time.
Andrew Meyerberg is the director of Seattle's Office of Police Accountability. The 6-month investigation found video of the 2 officers violating SPD and D.C. laws when they stood next to the Capitol in a clearly prohibited area. Videos also show the officers smiling while at the Capitol as rioters stormed the building. Any discipline for those officers must be determined by the chief of police. Amtrak trains across the Pacific Northwest are getting a facelift. The company announced today they are spending $7.3 billion to replace 83 passenger train cars that are currently a half a century old. The new trains will start running in the year 2024. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention calls the COVID-19 Delta variant troubling. Could that mean a return to mask mandates or restaurant restrictions? Drew Mickelson with our Seattle sister station asked the governor that this afternoon.
Gov Jay Inslee came up here to Mount St. Helens today to go on a hike with Bill Nye, the science guy. But before they headed out, we wanted to find out how concerned the governor is about the Delta variant and if those concerns could cause any restriction rollbacks.
It's disheartening to me that we have thousands of Washingtonians today who are targets for the Delta variants.
The governor brought a friend to talk about the importance of outdoor education. But he and Bill Nye also share a concern about the latest COVID-19 variant.
The Delta variant will find you. If you're not vaccinated, it will find you.
While Delta variant cases are not as bad in Washington as they are in other parts of the country, we asked if that changes, would the governor call for mask use again or reinstate social distancing limitations?
There's no reason to have to worry about that. If we get vaccinated, we won't have to worry about those options.
Don't you want to go back to the way it was, 2019?
The state's COVID vaccine incentive lottery wraps up next Tuesday with the big $1 million giveaway. I asked the governor if he might extend the lottery to get more people vaccinated. All he would say is get vaccinated today so you can qualify for that drawing.
That was Drew Mickelson reporting. Well, we now know what started this apartment fire in Northeast Portland on the 4th of July that killed 2 people. Fireworks. The 2 apartment buildings were engulfed in flames by the time that firefighters got there on Sunday. 2 people were found dead in their apartments and 1 woman was critically injured. It is still unclear if anyone has been charged in connection with this case. Well, the number of heat-related deaths across the state continues to rise, while some are saying more needs to be done to prevent these types of deaths. Plus, many renters seeing dramatic increases in their rent. We examine why it's happening and if it is legal. We are back in just 90 seconds. Don't go anywhere.